Hello and welcome back to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Dumbest Moments on No Bullshit. We've been off from this series for a good long while now, and for good reason. Not only did I think we all needed a break from Alex's silliness, but also, it really seems like Lexi has been toning things down a little bit lately. Perhaps it was because of exhaustion, the holidays, or more likely, Cortez could be getting more nervous about losing her position in Congress potentially, since there's been numerous rumors that she may be getting challenged for that position soon. And even some are saying some other Democrats might be making a move to sidetrack Alex as well. None of these reasons would surprise me either, especially that last one. Democrats really should have never let this wackadoo into their party to begin with. Not that they were that respectable or prestigious by last year either, but to bring in this young, ignorant airhead like AOC, well, that certainly was a beginning of a turn for the worst. Regardless, it's been pretty clear AOC's star has been fading recently, whether it's intentionally being dimmed by her or people could just be getting sick of her too, or both. Regardless of that though, Alex is back in the news this week, and she appears to be back to her old radical socialist and virtual communist self. As the title of this video suggests, our topic to discuss today is how AOC is getting in on the usual billionaire hate, which has been frequently spewed by liberals like this for years now. They hate rich people for some godforsaken reasons, mostly related to them despising our economic system, capitalism, which of course is what's creating more rich people than anywhere else in the world. And by all logical reasoning, a country that has lots of richers and billionaires, that should be a good sign that we are successful. We have business and industry and commerce that's profitable enough to create that much wealth. It's why people come to America from all over the world, to try and get themselves rich here one day too. But according to socialists like Alex, there shouldn't even be billionaires. They're automatically evil and morally corrupt, at least according to leftists and their crazy thoughts. Another example of this thinking was coming from Adam Ruins Everything, another left-wing figure who hosts a TV show, and he came out against billionaires last year too. Typical targets for this include industry moguls like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, and other similar ones like that. Bill Gates, Donald Trump, you name it. And what are you guys starting to notice is similar about these certain billionaires they attack? Well, besides being rich and American, they're of course mostly straight white guys, which is an identity I'm sure is not helping their causes, especially to SJWs like Alex who hate us because they ain't us. Come to think of it, do we even ever see these kinds of haters attacking rich billionaire minorities? Why aren't people like Oprah or Jay-Z ever attacked like this and told they're doing something wrong because they're so rich? Well, I think we all know why at this point. It's because the left hates certain groups and also helps and supports and props up others. And that's because they're biased, filled with double standards, and of course, they're also the real racists. For more details on AOC's recent wave of billionaire bashing, let's turn to an article called AOC, No One Ever Makes $1 Billion, You Take $1 Billion. You sat on a couch while thousands of people were paid modern-day slave wages. Okay, wow. A lot to go over here already. First of all, I don't really see the difference between making $1 billion and taking it, unless you go with the implication for the latter, that being if you take $1 billion, you're doing so in a shady, underhanded, illegal way. And to that, I would then ask Alex to present some sort of evidence to support that. If she knows of billionaires who are guilty of crimes, please present those facts and pitch your case. But clearly we're not going to get to the specifics here because Cortez is operating like a low-level gossip merchant, like she works for the Daily Mail or TMZ or something. She's got no facts or even any logic on her side, just dramatic statements, large implications, and unprovable claims she's hoping no one will ever take her to task on. Well, as you all know, we will be taking her to task. Of course we will here. I basically make a living off of calling out BS like this. Next, let's talk about how billionaires supposedly sit on couches while their workers do all the hard work. This seems to be the implication here, and it couldn't be further from the truth. But before we get too far into that though, let me first put out a disclaimer. I'm not necessarily here to defend the rich, particularly billionaires. They've already got everything they need and they have people they can hire to defend themselves. And also, I'm sure many rich people are possibly corrupt and or they did something shady in their careers. Cutting corners somewhere, making a harsh surprise business deal, firing longtime employees, you name it, and I'm sure a good amount of billionaires are at least guilty of one of these things. But at the same time, this liberal hatred for them is clearly unfounded, and it's based on the left's want and need to take money away from people even though they don't deserve it. Left-wingers think our money is their money, and to them the government has every right to take whatever they want from us, like they're some kind of big brother. This of course is not true in our world, and it's a terrible notion as well. And even though billionaires don't necessarily need my help here, I will give them the benefit of the doubt, just like how I do with everyone else. And they should be able to work freely, earn as much as they want, and not have to get it taken away by the government and liberals, just like how everyone else has that right too. With all that said, along with not pretending billionaires are criminals and the government should be taking their money, we also shouldn't be pretending their lives are very easy, and they're not hard workers either. AOC says they sit on a couch while everyone else works, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. First of all, have you ever seen a billionaire CEO or company president sit down on a couch at all? Sure, they probably have a couch or two in their big offices, and they may even take a seat on one from time to time in a meeting or something, but they're certainly not sitting back, laying down, watching TV, and eating chips all day, which is clearly the sort of implication here. Really, billionaires are more than likely standing up for a lot of their days, walking in between meetings, giving speeches, holding press conferences, and then when they do actually sit down, it's going to be in a desk chair, a formal one, or they could be using a standard rolling chair in some sort of conference room or something. But let's not focus on the seating arrangements too much. What's more important here is they are doing stuff, a whole lot of stuff. Billionaires make phone calls, forward business decisions, close big deals, hire and fire people, order around supporting staff, and so on. So unless we're talking about the few and far between billionaires who are actually completely retired and or they inherited all their wealth and didn't work for it, which these cases are super rare, but even then, even these billionaires would still have to do some work too. Keeping track and spending and spreading and paying your taxes and hiring security, these are just some of the many tasks that even a non-working billionaire will have to deal with in order to manage their fortune. Really, the best they could do is hire a few people to control their whole portfolio and manage their day-to-day details for them. And sure, that can and is usually done, but even then, you've got to find people you can really trust there. And keeping an eye on them, that can be a full-time job itself too. Finally, for this title and subtitle section of this article, let's get to talking about the ending part where Alex invokes memories of slavery, modern-day slave wages as she puts it. Well, that's just another way to say these billionaires are pro-slavery now, and probably white supremacist racists too, at least in the eyes of liberals and leftists. Never mind the fact that, again, there's no evidence or crimes proven to have happened here, and no direct evidence has been presented, and we can assume these billionaires are paying people what's fair and legal for the regions that they live and where they work in. Sure, some companies could be using sweatshops and morally questionable labor, like from actual wage slaves in another country, or even children could be working in their factories too, but that's certainly not happening in the United States. And if it is, it should be pointed out directly because we'll obviously shut it down quickly. As for the poor workers and conditions used in other countries, well, that's really something you should bring up to them. Chastise China or Taiwan or places in the Middle East that still actually conduct modern day slavery, specifically. No questions about it. But alas, no. Instead, Alex wants to blame the American straight white male billionaires because it's easier and more fitting for her narrative that she just attacked them instead. Places like Qatar get a pass even though that country is one that literally imports and enslaves African laborers to this day. But instead of calling that out, AOC is more worried about Jeff Bezos or the Apple Computer Company. And that's because this isn't about actually helping people and making their poor workers' lives better. Really, this is about Alex getting greedy and power hungry, and also showing her anti-white racism as she attacks American billionaires, acting as if they're guilty of crimes she has no proof they even committed. Or worse, she thinks their money should be hers, because of reasons I can hardly fathom without totally losing my mind. Let's go ahead and read on into this article a bit anyway though, and see what else happens. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat, New York, said that no one ever makes $1 billion, you take $1 billion. During a Martin Luther King Jr. Day discussion with author Ta-Nehisi Coates on Monday, no one ever makes $1 billion, you take $1 billion, Ocasio-Cortez said, receiving applause. I'm not here to villainize and to say billionaires are inherently morally corrupt. It's to say this system that we live in, life in capitalism, always ends in billionaires. Well, actually, Alex, you are trying to say exactly what you're denying. This is another common tactic, or rather a common nervous tick these liberals seem to have. It goes along with their projecting and accusing people of things they're actually guilty of themselves. And in turn, they also deny they are saying and doing things that they are exactly doing and saying. Everything you've said so far, Alex, has specifically been to villainize and imply billionaires are inherently morally corrupt. What's the point point of saying any of this otherwise. And as for life and capitalism ending in billionaires, well, that's a good thing. That's a great positive advantage that I'm glad our successful and world-renowned system has been able to accomplish. Cortez says this as if it's a bad thing though, and I have to say I'm hearing the opposite. Just imagine the inverse of this for 1 second. Would you want to live in a system that doesn't produce billionaires or any rich people? What if, say, making $100,000 per year was the maximum threshold for your whole country? That would not be a good thing. Sure, it's a lot of money, but if your ceiling is really just that low, then why even try and go higher? And why even try and work harder? Furthermore, capitalism is a great thing, and it's been doing our country well since before its inception nearly 300 years ago. And the real question we should be asking here is this: why would we change this system that isn't broken? And also, why would we switch to a system that's failed so many times in so many countries over and over again? Socialism and communism isn't the answer. We don't want to deal with that crap either. And all of this advice is coming from a 29-year-old former bartender who's never done anything significant with her life at all, let alone does she know how to run a business or manage an economy. With all that said, I think we'd have to be crazy to listen to her and go for all this nonsense. Finally, let's wrap this story up by going over a video of Alex from the speech in question in today's article. Here's a rather telling clip where Cortez openly admits she wants to attain the power and money that billionaires have. Check this one out.
If Jeff Bezos wants to be a good person, he'd turn Amazon to a worker cooperative.
Right.
You know, like, not what do I do with all of this money that I have created with this unjust system? And usually if you're a billionaire, that means that you control a massive system. It means that you own oil supplies.
Billionaires should give their companies to the employees, huh? Really doesn't get much more communist than that. It seems quaint now, but I actually remember the days when communists and socialists were properly looked down upon in American society. We knew that their system sucked and you had to work shitty jobs you didn't like there, just to eke by with a sort of minimum wage life, which usually resulted in your people forming breadlines anyway. This negative association also used to be directly related to our resentment of Russia as well, them being one of the world's most notable communist nations for decades. Funny how the modern day liberals still harbor so much resentment for Russia, who's now become a democratic capitalist republic sort of nation, at least for the most part now. But the left still does use Russia as their boogeyman, even blaming the Democrats' loss in the 2016 presidential election on Russia extensively for the last 4 years. But one thing they're forgetting about is why we used to hate the Ruskies so much anyway. Most of it having to do with their failing, totalitarian, unjust, and overbearing communist system. And that's the same system radicals like AOC are now pushing onto America up until this very day. Shouldn't be too surprising since Alex and her cohorts do have some similar tendencies to the former Russian communists. They too like to bully their people and boss everyone around while also taking away our rights, our money, and our private wealth, all in the name of making the government bigger, stronger, and more overbearing, just like how Mother Russia was back in its heyday.
It means that you control textiles. It means that you have a massive labor force under your control. And to be ethical, if you're a billionaire today, the thing that you need to do is give up control and power. So I don't want your money as much as we want your power. The people, not me.
Oops, a bit of a slip up there I see. Sure, she tried to cover it up by saying the people want their power, but Alex does represent some people, right? It's unfortunate that such an airhead with such an annoying Valley Girl voice got to this position, but that's where we are today. So that means what Alex is really suggesting is that billionaires like Jeff Bezos, they need to hand over their power and money directly to Alex, all because she got a couple thousand votes in a small, very biased congressional district in New York City, where people mostly voted for her because she was not ugly and a girl and a minority. Never mind the fact that Jeff Bezos started his company from scratch and ran it and innovated Amazon into becoming one of the greatest companies in the world. But now he made the mistake of being too successful, which means in this day and age, radical entitled leftists will turn to you and say, hey, I see what you have going there. That looks good and it's going to become mine now. In the end, Alex is up to her same old being dumb, asking for more than she deserves antics. This time it was capitalism itself that's come under fire, specifically billionaires who made fortunes through industry, which essentially amounts to giving people what they want in one way or another, if you think about it. Alex and other leftists are clearly jealous of that, because not only are they silly, broke, stupid Democrats who will never be able to succeed outside of their meaningless political lives based on bad ideas like social justice, but also Democrats are realizing more and more each day that they don't have this one main important trait, which many conservatives and billionaires clearly have. They don't know what people want anymore. And it's because partly liberals just don't care anymore. And in their worlds and their minds, it's all just about them and what they want rather than us. What do you guys think? Is AOC off her rocker? Will they stop with this just taking away things from billionaires thing? I'm sure millionaires and thousandaires and even middle class to poor people, we're the ones who are going to be losing our livelihoods next. Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Make sure you hit that like button to help support this channel, and we'll see y'all next time.